Hey everyone, it's Miss Linder, and we're going to do lesson 19, the function lesson. Okay, I've gone ahead and written two other definitions that you need to copy down, so you'll need to pause, copy it, and then continue with the video. All right, so let's look at number one. Number one says state whether each of these are a function, yes or no, and then why or why not. All right, so let's look at what a function means. It says each element, the x, relates to one of another set. For every x, there is only one y. So let's look at this side. These would be your x, and these would be your y's. So for every x, there can be only one y. All right, so let's look at the arrows. The 0 connects to the 0. The 1 connects to the negative 1 and a positive 1. For every x, there is only one y. So this would not be a function because 1 is also working with a negative and a positive 1. So that makes it not a function. All right, let's look at the picture number 2. Number 2, we can use what we call the vertical line test. And it means that you can take a line and you should only pass through. If I were to take this little guy right here and move it over on top of all that you see there, it should only hit one dot. Okay, so as you can see, we would end up hitting 2 dots. That's because their x would be the same value. And remember, 1x only has, whoops. Man, I can't erase and I can't go, there's the erase. Yay. Same. All right, they have the same value, which that's a terrible way to say it. So basically that their x has 2 y's. All right, so we would end up having 2 y's. All right, so let's look at the next example. So you're going to follow those little arrows, and remember this would be your first set and x and y would be your second set. So let's see, does each element, the x, have only one y? Yes, they only have one arrow going in. Now some of you noticed that we had one element, Mr. 15, that had 2 arrows going to him. That's okay if the x chooses a y that's the same, but we cannot have an x going to 2 different y's, okay? And we'll get better at these. All right, for number 2, it wants us to represent the function below as a set of ordered pairs. So basically, we're going to say the function of x. Okay, so we're going to give a function of x, and we're going to go ahead and give these ordered pairs. So all you have to do is tell me where all these dots are. So you're going to start with the first one and keep going and tell me where all those dots are, and you're going to do them in ordered pairs. So go ahead and pause the video and do those. All right, so here we went ahead and just represented the function because it is everybody's x has a different y. Okay, none of the y's are the same for that x. Okay, so for every x, there's only one y. Okay, so this makes sure it's a function, and we've gone ahead and done the function in ordered pairs. All right, so let's look at number 3. This is asking if it is a function. So remember, for every x, there has to be one y. So if you have a y that repeats, I wonder if that's allowed. In the first one, I see a y that's a 4. All right, so I have both 4s. So the x can only have one y. So that x is 2. And this x is a -1, but they both go to 4. So if we were talking about 2 and a -1, 2 and a -1 in the x set, and we're going to look at the y set, and you have 4. Let's draw some arrows. -1 to the 4 and 2 to the 4. So we learned from that previous drawing that this does mean that it is a function, okay? For every x, there is one y. So that means that we can't have an x repeat. So let's look at number 4. Number 4, do we have any x's that repeat? I don't see any x's that repeat, so that means that yes, we have a function. Let's look at number 5. Do we have any x's that repeat? Oh my, oh dear, let's go back to number 4. There's a 2. Sorry, I had that 4 in my brain. So 2 and 2, so this is not a function because we have 2 that have x as the number 2. All right, so let's look at number 5. Check your x's. Are all the x's different? Yes, then it is a function because remember, they can all shoot to that 4, which they're doing, but they all have to be individual arrows that are going to the 4. All right, I want you to try number 6 on your own. You should have said no. That number 5 is going to way too many people. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look at the vertical line test. So it's best if you use your pencil as your vertical line tester or your finger, but I would definitely use that pencil. So we're going to pretend that this arrow that Ms. Linder has is able to move across. Okay, if I were to slide that arrow across, do I at any point hit 2 dots? I do not. So that means that this is a function. All right, so let's take that arrow and we're going to go across. I hit 1 dot, hit another dot. Uh-oh. If you notice, that vertical line would have hit both of those dots. So this is not a function. All right, so let's take that in mind when we're looking here. Boy, we don't even need to go very far on this one. So that is not a function. All right, I want you to go ahead and try 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 on your own. 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11 on your own. All right, so let's see how you did. Number 7, no, that is not a function. Number 8, yes, that is a function. Now number 9, you probably got a little stuck with because you weren't quite sure, and that's okay. Because you're going to learn right now that this is not a function. Because for it to be a function, you have to have a continuous line. And this line and this graph and this data is discontinuous. It does not continue on. All right, so it has a break. Oops, sorry. And you can't erase once you start. Okay, and then number 10. No, because Mr. 0 went to 2 locations. That's not allowed. But in number 11, yes, all the arrows are shooting out straight, even though -1 and 0 hit the 2, and that's okay. That still means it's a function. All right, so here we're finding the function of x in terms of. All right, so what this is you basically have different F's, okay, your different functions. It's like having a machine, and we want to have pink one day, and we want to have blue Skittles the next day, and maybe black Skittles, which I know they don't make them. So every day there's going to be a different amount of coloring that goes in. However, the machine takes the same formula to make a Skittle. So the formula stays the same, but to get the different colors, we're going to put in different values for the X. Okay, so you're going to end up having 1, 2, 3, 4 problems. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the first one. So we're going to go ahead and say the function of X, and now we're going to plug in -3 for X. So we have a -3 squared plus 4 times the -3 plus 1. Notice I kept my negative out there because the power of 1, don't forget that power of -1. So I have a -1 times 9 plus the -12 plus 1. All right, so when the function of X is -3, the actual answer will be -20. All right, so I want you to go do the second one and the third one, and you're going to need to show your work, and then we'll talk about the last one. All right, so when you plugged in the 4, and I can't erase any of this, so I'm sorry, I'm still learning how to mess with this program, but when you plugged in 4 for the X, you got a -16 plus a +16 plus 1. So a -16 and a +16 makes 0, so you're left with 1. And then when you multiplied 0.5, you squared it. That gave you a 0.25 times the -1, so you have a -0.25 plus 4 times a 0.5 gave you 2 plus 1, so you ended up having a 1.75 plus 1, which gave you 2.75. All right, so now for the last one. All you have to do is instead of having an X, you put an A. That's it. So the function of X would now be looking like this. Because all we do is plug in the A. We do not know A's value. So we can't do anything. It's like, let's have another color that we're not quite sure about. But we know that it's going to be something. So we can talk about the formula and talk about this machine making this new color, knowing that we're going to have a number. We're just not quite sure what it is yet. Okay? All right, this has been Lesson 19 on functions. And if you have any problems, you need to make sure you email me so that I can help you. And I hope this helps, and I will see you tomorrow to work on the assignment.